The great thing is we now have access to DNA information, and it can give us insight into our own biological blueprint and help us answer questions like, and that's what we focus on, what's the diet right for me? How do I know the fitness that'll help me get the best results? What are some of the health factors I should be considering, and how can I keep really focused on preventative health to live my longest and healthiest life? And so that's the area of DNA testing we focus on, are the things you can do something about and that are intimately tied to your lifestyle and your well-being.
Can you explain for anyone who's just never heard about DNA testing? And there are a lot, because I've had these conversations at dinner parties. What is your genetic blueprint? What is DNA testing?
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. So, I think most people know, so DNA is deoxyribonucleic acid. It is the building block of, in your cells. And there's 3 billion letters in every single cell, which is, in your chromosomes. We have 23 chromosomes, and it really is the blueprint for how your body produces proteins. And so you have DNA that's in chromosomes, which have genes, which make a protein, which tells your body how to function. And those are kind of like recipes. And so if you've got, we actually have different recipes. And so if you have a different recipe, you might end up with brown eyes, and, my kids might have blue eyes. And so that's the recipe. That's the shift or a genetic variation that causes that. Well, there's many that link into a lot of different things. And so interestingly, our genetic code is 99.8% the same. And so that means there's only 0.2% difference between people, about
Wow.
3 to 10 million variations per person. And what we're looking at and studying is the variations. And so it's really this, these core 10 million plus variations and what they do. So it allows us to zero in, and certain genes have certain functions. Like there's a very specific gene, MCM6, that's focused on lactose. And so we can look at the gene, do you have these variations? And we know if you inherited a certain set of letters that you will be able to digest lactose or not easily. And so it's basically, does this gene activate to help you break down lactose? So we can pinpoint that, actually go in with DNA testing and look at those specific letters and find that out. And so what we've been trying to do with our work is, how do we go into the ones that are the most useful for you, provide those, test you for it, and let you know. So, Bahar, did you inherit the genes for lactose? And we know you did not. So it doesn't mean you can't eat lactose, and it doesn't mean you're going to be allergic to or sensitive, but your body doesn't naturally have the genetics that will break that down. And the odds are, over time, it could lead to weight gain, it can lead to inflammation, it can lead to gut issues. And so if you know that, you know what you're avoiding. And so just going back to the question on DNA, we all have DNA. We have 3 billion letters. It's in genes. The genes have variations. The variations are recipes that make proteins. And what we're trying to do is say, which variations do you have that may not be functioning or have a higher predisposition not to function as well as they could? And I'll just add that,
yes,
that over time, our body kind of gets a bit overloaded, and that's where these variations and the ones that don't work as well tend to show up.
What are epigenetics?
So the genetics is your code. It does not change over your lifetime. That's what you inherited from your parents, one letter from each of them to kind of give you your code at a certain spot. But epigenetics sits on top of genetics. It means on top of. And what it does is it tells your genes how to express themselves. And so if it can tell genes to turn on and off, and it can kind of be a dimmer switch up and down. So what epigenetics is really how your environment and your behaviors affect the expression of your genes. And so the power of looking at your DNA and at your lifestyle is you can map it together to find out and really narrow down what are the areas you should most focus on for your unique body and blueprint in order to support your long-term health.
This is where I'm interested in the practical application of your DNA testing. So dnaPower, first of all, let me tell you, it's the easiest thing in the world to take. So it is a saliva swab. It is not a blood test. It is not, you can do it from anywhere in the world. dnaPower's in Canada. They send you a kit. You swipe it. It's like, and now we're so used to having things in various orifices. It's nothing. So, and then you send your little kit back to Canada. They analyze your test. You get your report, and you also get the opportunity to have a consultation, which I did. And do you want to show them my tests?
Oh, fantastic. Would
Can we
love
do
to.
that? Because I'd like you just to reiterate the key pillars of the test results. And then maybe we could have a look at a few highlights.
Fantastic. So can you see my screen?
I can, yeah.
Absolutely. And for those who are listening to podcast, I'll describe some of it as we're going through. So we're looking at the summary report and the summary results. It's about 17 pages, and really it's graphs and recommendations. And so as we go through, it just tells you how to read it. All of them are here: diet, health, fit, and brain. And when we look into your results on the first section on diet, we see a lot of green. You have fantastic genetics, Bahar.
I always say that. And it's funny because I've always thought I was super healthy. And then when I first did 23andMe, the results for my disease kind of profile was so good. I became even more cocky. And then when I got my dnaPower summaries, I was so excited.
Absolutely. You are one of those fortunate people that can get away with eating almost anything, but saturated fats are not great for you. So really, junk food will, has some risk for you. Heavy dairies and meats, crackers, cookies, things that have that refined or processed food in it is something that will and could have some impact for you. So when I look at this, I can just look at the graph and I'll know instantly what type of diet should you be on. I can see if you can manage, if some people are great on a keto, some people are great with carbs. And so this is kind of your quick roadmap onto, is this person a carb, fat, or protein? How should that balance work for someone? So we're looking at that. And
I want to go back to something you said just a second ago. You were saying you only need to do this once. It is your genetic blueprint. And then the other tests that you do, like a blood test or whatever, or gut biome tests that are quite popular at the moment, those tell the story of a moment in time. But genetic testing is once, and it's your blueprint. Can you just go back to that? Because I think that that's the part that sometimes we get confused by, that this is your overall overarching predisposition and opportunities for, epigenetic change.
To be honest, I think you said it perfectly and beautifully. Your DNA, you inherit from your parent, from birth. It doesn't change over your lifetime for the most part. It absolutely stays the same. Cancer and things like that are a bit of an exception, but those are acquired mutations. So you acquire this blueprint with variations. And what we're doing is looking at those variations so that you can now use your lifestyle and the epigenetics to work with and around those. You only test it once. And now it's really about how you've lived your life. And if you live a perfectly healthy, clean life, the odds are it's all going to be okay. You may not even need your DNA information then. If you are doing everything right, no problem. You're going to be healthy. But the reality is, in the world that we live in, we have so many other, foods, activities, toxins, like just knowing, that there was an area on your hormones and your inflammation that were important to kind of monitor, Bahar. That's useful to know that there's something in the background that I could be aware of, that if something goes off, that might be a source of, because I know it's a genetic variation, where I could be looking. So again, this report, we recommend, you keep it, you file it, review it minimum once a year, keep your recommendation plan out with you printed so that you know where to, what you should be focused on, but it's a one-time test.
Oh, and what a test. I absolutely love it. I could speak to you forever. I'm interested to know, in your having been tested yourself, what are the key things that you credit with transforming your health? And what are some of the things that you were surprised to learn through genetic testing about your health span and your potential for lifespan?
Yeah, absolutely. So mine, when I did the DNA testing, I did it to learn about my twins because I thought, okay, they're adopted. This is going to be really important information. And let me tell you, I know essential information about my adopted children that is critical for their long-term health. They actually happen to have that APOE, Alzheimer's cholesterol gene problem. They have lactose. They can't have, they actually don't have the alcohol processing gene. So there's several areas that are critical. So I learned that for them, but mine was vitamin Bs. It became the key when I had, anemia, restless leg syndrome, troubles breathing. Turns out that it was the Bs that my body wasn't getting enough of because I never took vitamins, didn't believe in it. And that I needed the Bs to support the iron, to support the oxygen, to get the breath. And that turned out that became the link between my extreme periods, the reason why I'd never been able to get pregnant.
Just that
And
one thing.
it was folate in
Wow.
particular. I really have, it's called a methylation issue. I have an MTHFR gene problem that does not process folate. And it was as specific as that. When you go to a doctor, they were giving me iron and B12, but that wasn't my problem. It was actually folate B9, which is a precursor in that process. So truly, I'd gone to probably 8 different specialists, gynecologists, cancer specialists, asthma specialists, respirologists, and everybody couldn't find anything. It was actually just for me, quite an extreme vitamin deficiency. I had 0 iron in my body because I couldn't get it to process. I take vitamin B now I need it every day because my body, I had some antibiotics when I was young that we believe now decreased my ability to absorb the vitamins that I need. And in particular this, so I need quite a lot of vitamin B supplementation in order to be feeling amazing. I'm probably healthier now, almost at 60, than I've been through my whole life. I am just like, I feel so healthy. I know how to eat for my DNA. I know how to live for my body and support it. I've learned through that about how to express properly through more sleep. I used to always be sleep deprived. I know how to support that. That's been amazing. The other one was lactose and a little bit of gluten. I just went, oh, I had that all my life. I'm not sensitive. I'm not allergic to anything. Well, when I saw my DNA results and I went, well, that sucks. I actually have red on lactose. And I pulled it out of my diet. I dropped the 10 pounds that had been slowly creeping up year by year. It just has fallen off, and it's made it easy in order to be able to manage my weight and my health.